So we're on part 2 of the Yamaha R1 with the catastrophic engine failure. We've, like I say, got the engine out. I mean, shit, there's a massive amount of damage in there. The conrod's like half of it's missing, like worn out on the journal, and the journal on the crank is basically worn massively as well. It's probably the worst engine failure that I've seen for a very, very long time. I spoke to the customer, got a bit more of a story. So he bought it from a dealer shortly after, I think, the 3-month warranty. He had some engine issues, and I believe it had like a crank, big end bearings and conrod and stuff then. So the customer had to pay for the parts for the rebuild. The bike shop took the engine out and put it back in. Not sure if that was done under goodwill or not. I don't know. I don't know that side of the story. I'm only giving across, obviously, what I've kind of found out and been told. And like I say, that's what I've been told. So yeah, the engine got rebuilt by an engine builder. So the dealer took the engine out, sent it away to an engine builder. The engine got built. They sent it back to the dealer. They fitted the engine. And I believe the customer picked the bike up shortly after it went up quite high, over 120 degrees on the temp. So he took it back, and they had to put like 400 ml of coolant in it, I believe he was told. So I've not looked at the specs, but they probably take most bikes 2.5, 2.6 like litres. So it's almost a third of the coolant system not in there basically. So it's going to get hot spots, it's going to get a massive airlock in the coolant system, which isn't ideal for a brand new engine running it in. And obviously when the engine was built, it would have went back dry, as you don't generally transport engines with oil in them. So it would have needed fitting and bleeding, like I said in part 1, with bleeding, taking the clutch off, getting a drill on the end, spinning it up with oil in the sump until oil starts coming out of all the oil galleries, and then it fills the oil cooler up. So when you put the tank on and fire it up, the oil pressure light should go out pretty instantly, because you've already built up the pressure and the engine's not turned at all. You've just span the oil pump over, it's picking up oil, it's filling up the oil filter, oil cooler, oil galleries. So then when you put the tank on, fire it up, it's good to go. And the oil coolers, like, if you look at the size of it, I've not measured how much is in there. I'm going to have to wash this out as well, because it's had like sort of oil, where it's blown up, there's quite a bit of oil fragments. Hopefully the filter's caught all of it, but I'll clean this out in the parts washer, blow it all out, make sure it's clean. That takes about probably 300 ml, I guess, of oil. So that will take probably, I'd say probably 4 or 5 seconds to fill up, and then it'll start going around the engine and filling up the gallery. So if it's not bled properly from day one, you're on the back foot. But I also did find out that the customer, after he picked it up, after the coolant was topped up, he had a bit of a lowside at a roundabout. So the engine ran on its side. He's not sure how long for, and it doesn't need to run long to cause an issue, like with an airlock in the system. Like you see it on track bikes quite a lot, where you crash them, they slide, they carry on running, and the oil basically sloshes onto the side of the engine, and the oil pickups are normally right at the bottom of the sump. So if there's no oil in the sump to suck in, it's just pulling in air. So then the whole oil system gets a massive airlock in it, and it takes ages to bleed out. So if you just fire it back up and start riding it, you're probably going to have oil pressure issues. You got to take the filter off and like crank it over a few times. Like, that's a different procedure, so I won't go into that. Obviously I've done quite a lot of times. I've done it on my own Triumph when I high-sided that and crashed it. I bled that, and that's been absolutely fine. But yeah, we're get this engine out, which is almost out now, new engine in, get all the ancillary bits and stuff bolted to it, and then I'll take the clutch out, fill it up with oil, prime the system up. Obviously I'm going to have to prime the oil cooler up as well, so it's going to take a little while spinning that oil pump before it fills up the oil filter, fills up the oil cooler, and then starts filling up the galleries. And then once you're spinning it, you should start see all the oil pissing out on the inside, and then you know that all the galleries are pretty full. So when you start the button, the oil pressure light should go out instantly. So yeah, obviously the customers had to pay for, so we paid for the original bits because it's just out of the warranty period. Don't know if he had to pay, obviously, for the engine labour to put in and out, but he had to pay for the parts, and he's now also had to bring it into me to fit another second-hand engine that he also had to buy. And yeah, so it's a bit of a shame, but I'll fit it to my best of my ability, bleed the system, run it up on the dyno, make sure that's all running good. And then it's also, I see it's got a Woolwich quick shifter on, and it's got the lead in the ECU, so it's been mapped, but the lambda sensors are still connected, which is a bit confusing, because on the early R1s like this, you unplug the lambda sensor once it's been mapped, but these have been left plugged in. So once the engine's in and fired up, and I'm happy that it's got oil pressure, I'll give it a little run on the dyno just to warm it up to temperature, make sure it sounds good, and also check the AFR. And if it needs remapping, then obviously the customer's unfortunately going to have to pay for a bit more mapping to be done. So yeah, unfortunately, it's one of those things, really. The dealer obviously didn't want to take responsibility, because and the engine builder as well, because they know it's been ran on its side when he fell off it. That can cause problems. So unfortunately for the customer, it's cost them a lot of money. Like I say, it's like whether whose fault it is or not. There's issues there that could cause problems that was outside of the control of both the dealer and the engine builder. I'm not getting involved in that side of things. I've just been like sort of kind of requested to do the engine job. I've got a dyno here so I can run it up, make sure it's okay, make sure the engine sounds good. So the engine is out. My little setup I use axle stands with a bar across the top, and then use some strap to strap the engine, and then I basically lift the ramp up and the engine stays there, but then the ramp will come up to meet the engine, and then you just pull the engine out. When I fit the new engine, I'll get it on the ramp, like sort of high up, and then do the straps up. So when I lower the ramp, it basically lower the frame onto the top of the engine. So yeah, that's the easiest way I found of doing it. Yeah, in fingers crossed, it will all go back together okay and run absolutely fine once it's all bled up and stuff. So the oil cooler I've drained out into an oil pan, and it is what I suspected. There is quite a lot of oil. There's quite a lot of metal fragments in there. You might be able to see some of it floating around. So obviously where it's had quite a catastrophic engine failure, there's obviously been a lot of oil pushed around the system. So I've got the parts washer out. I'm going to flush it through, flush the oil cooler through, make sure that it's basically running like sort of clean, fresh fluid. I can't hold the oil cooler and do that as well, but I will hold it upside down, turn it around at all sorts of angles to try and flush it through, and I'll also back flush it the other way. And I'll also do the same with the oil pipes on the bike. So I'll take the oil pipes off and blow them through with parts washer fluid as well, to make sure that we get any traces of metal at the system. Ready fit on the replacement engine and bleed it up. So yeah, I'm going to do a video with the bleed in the system as well, so that you can see that. And like I say, it's a bit of interesting information for you guys, hopefully. So the replacement engine hasn't got any exhaust studs, so I've had to use, that's a compressor again. I've had to use this tool to remove. Hopefully they're going to be easy enough to remove all the exhaust studs out of the old engine, and then I'll put them into the new engine, and then we can get the exhaust on and get it, like I say, start putting it back together. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe. I'm going to try and do some more technical videos like this. I'll do some like little short clips of putting the engine back together.